All right, welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. You know all about their history, family-owned for 4 generations, 100 years of proven quality. But A.G. Hines Company should be the future of your home improvement project. Start there for the best building materials in East Tennessee and all the tools you will need. aghines.com. A.G. Hines Company on Hines Street, downtown Knoxville. See them this week if you've got a home improvement project you are working on. All right, let's welcome in the next 2 members of our panel. As I mentioned earlier, he's been with us for 20 years now. Chuck Cavaleris, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. Happy New Year, everybody.
And we got another VFL right here. And Marlon Walls. Marlon, I know you were happy with that win the other night. Thanks for being here.
Happy New Year, like Chuck just said.
All right, let me start with you, as a matter of fact. We'll let you guys kick off here. We talked a little bit about Joe Milton. It wasn't as smooth as what Hendon Hooker has done. Okay, I don't know. We may never see a quarterback who comes in and runs it as smoothly as Hendon Hooker did. The guy was on pace to be in the Heisman finalist. If he doesn't get hurt, he may be there in New York. Your thoughts on Milton and his performance? It was up and down, but when you look at it at the end, 3 touchdowns, no picks, MVP, hard to argue.
251 yards passing. I kept watching that game the other day thinking, all right, it's 3rd and 7. All right, Joe Milton, what you going to do? And he answered the call every time. Now, he wasn't perfect. It wasn't, like you said, it wasn't as smooth as Hendon Hooker running the offense. But if you're expecting that, I think your expectations are going to have to change. Hendon Hooker was a special guy.
Yeah.
But Milton did do some things that amazes you. He's got some zip on the ball, and he can put it in tight windows like nobody else can do.
Well, we know he can throw an orange 100 yards, right?
Well, I mean, a couple of those flips of the ball that went the 46-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
I don't even think he completely flicked the ball. I mean, it was just like, didn't he have to follow through on the flick?
He's special. Like I said, he won't be a Hendon Hooker guy. I don't think so. But it's hard to scoff at 251 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and you win the bowl game versus a perennial opponent in Clemson. I just think if he can continue down that path where he does some of those things every once in a while, where he can fit a ball in a tight window, he's going to be a special guy in a special offense.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when I think back, how many times did Hendon Hooker make this like an amazing escape play to where it looked like, well, they've got him sacked for 10 yards, he's dead to rights. All of a sudden, he's out of there running. He turns a 10-yard loss into a 17-yard gain. I don't know that Joe Milton is going to be able to do that. I think he needs to improve on maybe he tends to hold the ball too long, but you can understand some of that. But when you look at that, let Joe Milton be Joe Milton and see what you got. I don't think he's quite as eager to run. That's my opinion.
Very good point.
I don't. Bob, you mentioned it the other night we were talking. Decisiveness, and you could say that whether it's throwing the ball or he looks into Hooker was decisive with when I'm going to run and when I'm not. I got to take off.
It's like he's got a little mini pause in there. Milton does that just when he throws and especially when he runs. I mean, he looks like he should be able to just tuck it and go. And now you're tackling an athletic tight end. But it seemed like I thought one of the plays was when that defensive end brought him down 1-on-1. He's out in the open field. If he gets by him, he's going to have a good game. Kick him up, drag him down pretty easy. That worries me a little bit about what he brings to the running game. Yeah. But, it's also the first time, second time he's played in a year and a half as far as that much of an extended amount.
And he was playing against a pretty good defense, too. I mean, they were without 2 of their best players, but still, you went into that game more undermanned than Clemson did.
Yeah, and they have good defensive line. So I mean, it's not like those guys were slouches.
And they were getting
they're
pressure
NFL
on
players.
him.
They're NFL players.
Yeah, and Milton was getting pressure on him all night.
And so I think he does have to learn to pull the trigger on the run. And the problem is a guy with that kind of arm. I remember when we had to play against Brett Favre, our coach was always like, you have to cover a guy anywhere on the field because he can make the throw, but he's going to make a bad decision because he relies too much on his arm at times. So I think that's what he's got to get away from, is saying, in the clock in my head, when it goes off, I'm running. And that's my only decision.
That's funny you said that. We had that discussion yesterday where it literally compared him to Brett Favre in that he might not always make the best decision. There was a 3rd and 9 pass that UT coaches seemed to be cool with, looked questionable on his decision-making on our end. Give them the credit if they liked it. But there may be times where he makes a bad decision, but like Favre, he's got an arm that can kind of make up for it at times. Which Hooker made better decisions, but he didn't have that rifle that, well, I made the bad throw, but I threw it through the defensive back's chest.
Exactly.
And into the
Exactly.
receiver. One thing I wanted to see more of, I was most impressed, their first touchdown drive of the night. I know he's got a cannon. I know he'll hit for a deep ball or two every game. That's low percentage, though. Their first touchdown drive was a couple of design runs for Milton, 4 passes, all about 10 to 15 yards, culminating in that pretty 16-yard pass to Squirrel White. Oh, I thought that might have been the Brew McCoy touchdown.
It was McCoy.
That was McCoy on the first one. But that's when we didn't see it again. That kind of a long, sustained, consistent drive is what I want to see some from Joe Milton. We know he can throw the bomb at any moment.
Right.
But that's what we missed. Let's talk about the run game very quickly. Let me show you some numbers. Touched on this in the last segment. All right, I went back and looked at the yards per carry in Tennessee's games against Power 5 opponents and looked at their points they scored in regulation. It's almost 1-to-1. Georgia, Pitt, and Clemson were their 3 worst rushing days. Also, their 3 worst scoring days. 2.2 yards per carry at Georgia, you score 13 points, and one of those was cosmetic. 2.4 against Pitt, you scored 27 in regulation. 3.2 against Clemson the other night, you scored 31. Then you look at all the games where you average more than 4 yards per carry. 44, 52, 40, 38, 38, 66, and 56 points. Again, I think the run game is a huge part of this. So when you look at it and say the offense is struggling, it's all on Milton, I don't know that that's fair. However, do you, and this will be quick, Chuck and Marlon, do you call more design runs early? I don't think he likes to run as much as Hendon Hooker did. Do you force him to do it to try and get him into it, or no?
I say yes, because Milton's a very confident guy. I think if Heupel goes to Milton and says, hey, I think you can have an outstanding season, you can get a lot of that regulation that Hendon Hooker got if you decide to run the ball a little bit more. I think he's confident enough to say, I get it done.
Sorry.
I would say no. And I want somebody else that may be able to run the ball. I want him to be mobile, but I don't know for sure that I want to force the design runs on him until I know for sure that's something that fits his, his talents, what he can do.
I think he's run well when they've
Right.
called the design runs. I think he's, he had some good runs.
You think it would
he's
be-
not Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, you
but
It goes down easy.
You think it'd be great in the red zone if they don't down near the goal line, maybe?
30 seconds for you guys to bat it out on this one. They're not going after a quarterback in the transfer portal, according to quarterback coach Joey Halsley. Are you good with Milton, Iamaleava, Jackson as your 3-man team?
Yeah, I am, just because the simple fact, you just beat Clemson with one of those guys. I mean, to me, that's like, hey, I do that, I win.
It tells me they like Jackson because, 1, if they didn't, he would be in the transfer portal. 2, if they didn't, they'd be going and finding another quarterback. So that tells me the coaches like him more than the fans realize.
All right, very good. When we come back, our former players are going to discuss what the Vols need to do to improve their defense in 2023. We start looking ahead. We got much more to come in this show. Come on back on the Sports Source.